What up, good people? What up, what up, what up? How you doing? How you been? Did y'all did y'all read the title before you clicked on? I know nobody's on yet, but I know you see me. I know you see me. Listen, I wanted to come and talk about what makes the perfect victim. What makes the perfect victim? I really like this product. They need to keep this in rotation. I really like this product. I got two. They weren't going to get me. Listen, so what makes the perfect victim? So I'm going to be speaking from experience, especially of being gang stalked, followed, watched, my privacy deeply invaded, and just having to deal with people in the midst of all of those things taking place, right? So I want to speak from that experience, and then I'm also going to throw some scripture in it a little bit that highlights this. Now, I am sitting in a public space, so if you happen to hear any outside noises, it's because I'm outside in a public space. Okay, I decided to drop this before I went to do something else. So yeah. So from my experience of being gang stalked, of being watched, and just different little things like that, right? Having to deal with people in the midst of being gang stalked, being watched, followed, mocked, all these other different things that come along with being in the public eye, right? And also just observing other people who have been in the public eye space, or um, just all types of different observations on top of my own experiences, right? Let me interject this really quickly. The reason I believe this is an important topic to talk about or to speak about is because if we as a people do not come together to stand up for us, right? The people who have been consistently making other people victims will continue to do so. So this is why I feel like this conversation is important to have, because we have to change something, okay? And if we don't change something, then all things will stay the same. And if all things stay the same, then nothing will ever change, right? People will continue to be victims, and people will continue to not have community when they are being made into a victim, or someone is targeting them to be victimized, right? So we need to have this conversation, right? um Fear makes someone a perfect victim. Fear makes someone a perfect victim. Okay. There are outside factors that also play a part in that, but fear is the biggest thing that makes someone a perfect victim. Now, I have been followed. There has been things placed on my car, inside of my car. My phone has been hacked, and there's even a record of that from other content creators, because what they will do is they will open their mouth trying to make a mocking of my life and my situation while they see me actively being targeted, right? But they make jokes about it. Somehow society has made it to where even if you're being victimized, even if there are things taking place in your life, society has tried to make it where you can't be a victim. We're going to make it plain. Society has tried to make it where even if things are happening in your life, you can't be a victim, right? Victimhood looks a certain way. I seen a thumbnail the other day on YouTube, and it was saying something about looking rich but still broke, right? Or there was a thumbnail a while back, right? When they know you broke, they'll tell you, well, put some clothes on. Go buy some clothes so you don't look like that, right? But then when you don't look like that, they got an issue with the fact that you look like you look and they know you broke. But the only reason they know you're broke is because they're watching your life, because someone else has tried to make your life into being a victim, into being targeted, right? They did things in your life to make you into a victim, to make you into a mockery, or whatever their reasoning and idea was, right? They did all of these things because they felt like the pressure from outside people would make you fearful and would make you shrink, right? Those are the two things that make you a good victim, right? If you're scared, if you shrink yourself, right, because of the fear or the pressure from people, then you're a good victim. You're a good victim. People won't take accountability for their part in trying to make you a victim, or in helping or assisting and aiding and abetting those who want you to be a victim, who are targeting you, who are trying to traffic you, or who are hunting you, right? They don't want to take accountability for their assistance in that work. Stay with me. Stay with me. People don't want to take accountability for the assistance that they have in aiding and abetting the very people who want to make you into a victim, who are targeting you, who are trying to kill your spirit, right? 2 Timothy 1:7 says that God did not give us a spirit of fear. He gave us the spirit of power, love, and a strong mind, right? When you're strong-minded, even if there are things going on in your life where you're being attacked, you're being followed, you're being watched, if you're strong-minded, oh, you're not a victim, right? What makes victims stay small or be quiet is the network behind the criminal that's targeting or victimizing a person. It's the network. If you look at any individual, whether they look like a victim or not, you can look at people and tell that certain people have been abused. You can look, or maybe you can't. Some people have the eye to see when some people have been abused. You can tell there's a look. There's a demeanor in how they carry themselves, and how, I don't even want to go too deep in it, because then I don't want people going around looking at people and saying, oh, they're a victim, right? But then there's also the flip side of that, where people will believe you're not a victim because you carry yourself in a certain way. People look at me all the time and they say, you're not a victim. But they're actively watching my life and I didn't give them access to it. How am I not a victim? I didn't give you full access, open access, 24/7 access to my life. So how am I not a victim? Just because a person chooses not to carry themselves as someone that's going through something does not mean that they are not going through anything. I worked at a DV shelter. There are some women and people who carry themselves in such a way where they are not going to look down and out, right? There was a whole trend and a wave that people had who were assisting, aiding, and abetting people who were trying to victimize me, or who have been actively trying to victimize me, right? And they were saying, oh, even if you're down and out, you need to look the part. You need to dress up. You need to put on some clothes. You can't be out here being raggedy. How you doing? You can't be out here being raggedy. You got to put some clothes on. Look better, right? And then people will treat you better. That's a lie. It's a partial lie. I say partial lie because depending on the atmosphere that you're in, if you do look better, people will treat you better. We know that. I know that. Maybe you don't know that, but it is true. If you look a certain way, people will treat you a certain way. But we're living in different times right now, right? There's a lot of people that are still struggling with the lack of accountability, that they have personal issues that they try to project onto someone else, right? Everybody does not know how to carry their cross in such a way to where uh how can I say this? That's my fan club, y'all. Um Everybody doesn't know how to carry themselves in such a way to where you can't see what they're going through. Do you know what I mean? Some people carry themselves in such a way where they could be going through living hell, but you can't see it on them. You couldn't tell by how they carry themselves. And it's because God did not give us the spirit of fear. He gave us power, love, and a sound mind. So some people have the ability to be going through a living hell, but they still somehow have the ability to love other people. They still somehow have the ability to show up looking like they're not scared of anything. Even if deep down they might be in their mind trying to figure out X, Y, and Z, right? It doesn't necessarily mean they're fearful because they're trying to figure stuff out. It just means that they've had to adapt because of whatever situation they may be in. When you're being actively victimized, targeted, watched, followed, right? There are 2 people right now sitting in this parking lot, possibly 3, right? That I've already marked, right? That are just around me just because. They're not doing nothing. They haven't got out their car. There are people who literally pop up where I'm at. How do they know my location? How do they know my active and present location if I'm not a victim? This happens to me every single day, multiple times a day. Every single day, multiple times a day, people will pop up at my exact location. How? I don't want to hear from you people who will be like, oh, well, it's just a coincidence. I've lived through enough mess from being watched and followed by some of your favorites. I don't believe in coincidences. I believe everything happens for a reason. I don't believe in coincidences anymore. I might say, oh, that's a coincidence. It's not a coincidence that I believe it is. It's not. Hey, how are you? Thank you. It's not a coincidence. But until we as a society actually come together and realize our fear of being a nobody, our fear of speaking up in defense of somebody because the person who they may be going against has this illusion of power, right? Until we as a people realize that people are being trafficked, hunted, stalked, watched, all of these things because there is a network that functions and runs smoothly. How you doing? There's a network, a system in place that has put this fear on society to not speak up or to not step up and help and love your neighbor. So instead of helping and loving your neighbor, what I have seen is that people will help and love the one that's doing the abuse. They won't help the person that's being abused. They will aid and assist the abuser because they think it's the popular thing to do. They think it's the popular thing to do. I have somebody right now doing something stupid right beside me in this white SUV. Because they think it's going to unnerve me from having this conversation. People do stupid stuff all the time. And they do it because they want attention. Attention is dangerous, right? People think that they will do things to you to try to unnerve you because they know, they see that you are actively going through things. And some part of the loser in these people, and I hate calling people losers, but you have to really be some type of sad person to actively help and assist in someone else's intentional targeting of that person. There's something wrong with you mentally and spiritually to actively assist in stupid stuff like that. I don't feel bad for saying it because a lot of people don't feel bad for the things that they do to other people. They don't feel bad. Some part of them feels good about it. And they make people into victims because they tell people you shouldn't feel good about telling your story. You shouldn't feel good about speaking up about that. And so someone that is being victimized will look at the crowd and they say, oh, it's too many of them. It's just me. I'm not going to say anything because they have more power. They have more connection. They have more network. Fear makes someone into the perfect victim. They want you to be scared. They want you to feel away. So they'll show up beside you doing stupid stuff because they want you to feel away. Look at this person. They want you to feel away. This truck, when I was parked over there, it moved. That white car, ain't nobody got out that car yet. They literally parked, and then they're not even in the parking lot. They literally parked right in front of me, and this genius parked right beside me after trying to back up 50 times just because they thought it was going to unnerve me. People literally pop up and do stupid stuff around me all the time trying to unnerve. They want to intentionally unnerve me. If I had fear, and I'm not telling you as a victim if there is something going on, to not be mindful, right? To not have the ability to assess your situation and determine how you should act, right? There are some people that are literally mentally unhinged. But just like when dealing with bullies, right? When you actually think about a bully, the reason people are bullies is because somebody bullied them. And they didn't know how to deal with it. So the only result they got was, I'm going to turn around and now I got to be the bully. I got to be the biggest, baddest bully because, someone bullied me. I didn't know how to process my feelings about it. So now I got to turn around and try to bully everybody else to make myself feel like the biggest, baddest bully. That's really what it is. It's actually easy to bully people. Especially the bullies. The bullies are the easiest to bully when you really sit down and think about it. They're the easiest ones to bully because they're the main ones who care so much about what other people think of them. They're the easiest ones to bully. They're the easiest ones to get in their heads. There are some sick, rich people who do stupid stuff towards me every day. They wake up and their mission is get in this girl's head. Figure out how to get in their head. The person that's over them, that's bigger than them, right? That is puppeteering them. Every day they wake up and they say, figure out how to get in this girl's head. You know what I do every day? This this because you can. Hello, thank y'all for subbing. It doesn't work like that. The bullies are the easiest to bully because they care so much about what other people think. They care too much about the wrong things. They need the validation from outside sources, right? So the bullies are the easiest to bully. Could you imagine someone trying to make you a victim or doing stupid stuff to you? The other day I was in the gym and this man that was balding in the middle, and I'm just giving y'all details, okay? He was balding in the middle. He had on a aloha shirt and some khakis at the gym, okay? Now, he came over there around me with his young bull, trying to indirectly talk mess. I don't know why people do that. I've been ignoring it for a long time, right? People who see me actually finally respond, if I choose to respond or not that day, they be like, oh, you're not mature. That's a lie. That's a lie. I ignore actually a whole lot before I decide I'm going to say something. When I do actually say something, that's a lie. It's that I'm not. It has nothing to do with not being mature. But at a certain point, when there are things consistently happening to you every day, all day, you're going to want to say something eventually. People act like in order for you to be victimized, you have to shut up all the time. Excuse me, are you being pressed or have I been pressed? Who's being pressed? Me or you? When you actually say something back to these people who actually come around you doing stupid stuff, and I'm not saying say something all the time because sometimes people just want you to say something. All they are carrying around is negativity and drama. And so if they feel like if they can say something to you and you give them a response, well, you just gave them some of your good energy, even if you gave it to them in a toxic way. That's how sad some people are. Right? That's how sad some people are. Even if you gave them a response, because they are toxic, they're mentally deranged and not all the way there, right? You responding is still you giving them good energy in a toxic way, and they'll take that because they need it. They're leeches. They need that. Fear makes people the perfect victim. If let's say you got a child, right? I know a lot of people are parents. Eventually, what happens when you get tired of your kid being pressed and messed with, right? Either you tell your kid, look, the next time that person does something to you, you better knock them out. Or you're the type of parent where you're showing up almost ready to fight a kid, right? Why? Because you understand that bullies only respond to pressure. They only respond sometimes to the pushback. So if someone is doing stupid stuff trying to make you fearful and you stand there with no fear, they looking at you like, what's wrong with you? It's 10,000 of us. It's just one of you. Why are you not scared? Why aren't you moved? But when you're walking with God, he didn't give us a spirit of fear. He gave us power, love, and a sound mind. So as a victim, we have to have the ability to be able to assess and maneuver and strategize, right? What's going on around us? What's going on around us? Are we going to let the things going on around us move or unnerve us? The thing that this genius beside me has done months ago, maybe a year or two ago, that would have unraveled me. It would have. I'm just being honest. I've been dealing with this for so long. A year or two ago, months ago, that would have unrattled me. That would have rattled me. Now I know it's some low fruit, right? It's some person that's low on a totem pole who was sent out on a mission to rattle me, right? This is not even the big dog that's doing this. This is a little dog. I'm not about to be moved by no little dog barking. It's the big dogs you got to take out. It's not the little dogs, right? The little dogs are the pawns. They're the ones big. You got to get taken out first when you the pawn. They give up the pawns easy. They give up the pawns easy. Because all the power is in the bigger, all the power is in the pieces in the back. So sometimes the people making the most noise towards you, they don't even have all the power. It's the ones in the back. But sometimes if you do enough, you'll rattle the ones in the back. And they'll start talking. Sometimes if you do enough, you will rattle the big dogs and they'll start barking. You can't be a victim and waste all your energy on the little dogs. You know what I'm saying? You need to get the big dogs to bark. That's a strong mind. You need the big dogs to bark. It's chess. You not worried about the pawns, right? You still have to keep an eye on the pawns, but it's them big dogs you want to knock off the board because you know the pawns don't really have that much power unless you're playing against a good opponent, and then them pawns can do magic. You hear what I'm saying? Unless you're playing against a good opponent, them pawns can do magic. You done looked over this pawn so much you don't even realize it got to the other side of the board. And now you got backup because that pawn has turned into a big player. The pawn has turned into a big dog. He was a little dog just a couple moves ago. But now he done got across the board. He a big dog. What makes the perfect victim is fear. It's fear. As a community, if we continue to look at what's taking place to us, right? If we continue to see that the big dogs don't give a dang about the little dogs, and the little dogs don't come together and strategize to see how can we go heads up, how can we get to the other side of this board, right? To become a big dog together. That fear of, oh, because I'm little, I don't have the resources, I don't have the power, I don't have the network. If you put enough little dogs together, do you not know it sounds like a big dog? I'm just asking. I've been doing some things lately when I go, make my money, and for whatever reason, the new thing that people have been doing, right? I think they think I'm scared of dogs. I'm not. I'm not. So make sure you keep your dogs where they need to be kept, because all things moving, it's gonna be me or your dog. That's all I'm saying. It's me or your dog, okay? So I'm not scared of dogs. But lately, when I've been going to do things, people have been having their dogs in all types of places. They're barking and doing all these things that dogs do, right? Because dogs are dogs. And they feel like they're trying to, I guess, see if I'm scared of the dog. I'm not going to be scared of your dog. I went somewhere the other day. It was a cool little house, cool little family. But they had their dogs out holding the dog's mouth like, come on now. Come on now. Ain't nobody scared of your dog. I'm trying to figure out why in your head would that even be like the logical thing to do. I'm not scared of your dog. But the fact that you would even do that is... Anywho, fear makes someone a perfect victim. So when you see these people who things have happened to them 20 or 30, however many years ago, and then they decide to speak up now, and a lot of people's first thing is, why didn't they speak up? They were scared. They were scared. They have watched and learned and endured enough to realize that there's a network of people who will link up with these deviant individuals and assist them, right? They were scared. They were scared. Fear makes someone the perfect victim. Fear. When you're not scared, you unrattle the person that's trying to do all of these different things to you. When you're not scared of the repercussions, right? Then how are they going to make you a victim? How can they make you a victim? How can they make you fear the consequences if you're not scared? If you have decided that whatever may come, whatever may happen, I'm going to stand on what it is that I feel like is worth fighting for. How can you be moved? Don't get it twisted. There's ways people can move you, of course. But you'll rattle them more than they'll rattle you. You will rattle them more than they will rattle you. This person sitting beside me has yet to get out of his car. ain't got out of this car yet. He's just sitting there the whole time beside me as I do the video. He ain't got out of his car yet. The one truck left. The other white car is still down there. This man has yet to get out his car. The me who had experienced all of these things for so long, I would have been moved if I was still that version of myself. At some point, when so much stuff is happening, right? There's so much stuff happening in the world. I'm not telling you to go out here and not to have any fear whatsoever, right? What I'm telling you is a sound mind, along with not having the spirit of fear, right, will help you to maneuver through different things. When we look at the story of Elijah, right, and he had to fight all the prophets of Baal, he had to go up against all the prophets of Baal. At some point in the battle, he was rattled, right? At some point in that battle, he got rattled and he decided, God, I'm going to go on over here. Jezebel said whatever Jezebel said to him, that she was going to kill him or do whatever, because Jezebel got mad because he had already took out the people. He had already took out her prophets, right? Jezebel threatened that man and he went somewhere, left his mentee. That man dropped everything and everybody and said, I need a me time. And God said, okay, cool. Go rest. I'm going to give you something to eat as you rest. Shout out to my grandma. Okay. This is a tangent. But when I was younger and my mama had to work or whatever, but when I was younger and I was sick, I would go to my grandma's house. And for the life of me, now that I'm older, I can appreciate it. But for the life of me, I used to never understand, while in the midst of my resting, my grandma would wake me up, because my grandma used to cook 3 times a day, okay? My grandma, whatever time I got there, right? Because, of course, my mom had to go to work early, so she probably dropped me off at my grandma's house like 6 something in the morning. My grandma would wake me up for breakfast. She would wake me up for lunch. And if I stayed over there the entire day, she would wake me up for dinner too, okay? And it wasn't you can't eat. I was sick, but she still made sure I ate, okay? Shout out to my grandma. But listen, God took Elijah, let that man rest, but even during his rest, he fed him. He fed him before he would send him back out into battle. So it's not that God doesn't understand us having some type of fear, right? There were other people in the Bible that had fear too as well, right? Jonah was like, nah, he didn't want to do it. I don't even blame Jonah after experiencing everything I done been through. I don't even blame Jonah. I understand why Jonah was like, no, get somebody else to do it. God was like, no, I got you, okay? And he forced that man. Y'all look at it how you want to. He forced Jonah, okay? Jonah was forced into submission. I don't care what you say. I know this ain't making it unashamed where I just talk freely about stuff I'm sliding in there. Anyway, listen. Jonah was forced. I don't say what you want to say, okay? Jonah's hand was forced to do what the Lord said you gonna do, okay? Whatever. Listen. God will know that you're going to experience fear, right? He gives us grace even if we do have fear, right? There are a lot of things in the world that are probably scary. We just found out not long ago they're eating people. They were eating people back then. They're eating them still today. They're still eating people. Okay? Still clearly tracking people, watching people, following people, right? This guy over here. Still, there are people that are really in the head. There's something wrong with them. And they want you to fear them. Right? Now, there are those who are just extra crazy, right? And the fact that you don't fear them probably arouses them. There's something deeply wrong in some of these people's head, right? You cannot have no fear of these people. And they're probably like, oh, yeah, we really want to get in this person's head. Some people don't fear you. They don't fear death. They don't fear none of that. So what? You mean to tell me I don't have to be here and deal with some of this foolery that I done seen and experienced and put two and two and four and eight together? I don't have to be here for that. I'm supposed to be mad about that. How do we fix this? Right? How do we fix creating a space for people who are going through things? How do we establish a space for people who are going through things to have community and safe spaces to speak on them? I think the biggest thing is being able to establish a community that actually is ready to do the work and heal. Why does that matter? If more people are able to heal, like deeply and seriously are able to heal, right? That raises the standard of how we conduct ourselves amongst ourselves. Hear me? If more people actively heal and they do the work to figure out who they are outside of what society says, this is it, this is it, this is outside of what society says, but deeply tune into themselves and figure out who they are. Figure out who they are paired up or in comparison to their beliefs, right? Who are you? Why do you believe what you believe? Why do you stand for what you stand for? And we actually establish a collective code of conduct. Then it'll be easier to make space for people who are victims or who need help. Because then there's not a group of toxic individuals who are like, oh, we're going to pick on this person too because, well, everybody else is doing it. The unhealed people are the ones jumping in helping the abusers. They don't want to see themselves as that, but that's exactly what they are. They're the unhealed people that's jumping in to help the abusers. And this is why people feel like they can't speak up because, well, there's a network of people who would pick on them and ostracize them. They can't even be vulnerable with you because you'll turn around and say, oh, well, what did you do? Why did you do that? Some people don't have no sense. Some people don't have no sense. They just do stupid stuff just because. It doesn't mean that the person did anything. From my experience, it's dangerous dealing with people that wear masks. Why do I say that? People will show up in your life one way, right? And deep down, they are completely something else. People will show up in your life one way, and deep down, they are completely something else. When you take the time to pause and really get to know people, then yeah, you'll be able to see certain signs and be able to be like, okay, I need to either stay here or I need to move. I need to stay here or I need to move. You have to be sound enough, right? You have to have a sound mind enough to be able to gauge what you need to do. You have to be able to get to a place where you know your center, and so you can gauge when you're off of it. When you're in an environment or a setting that's not right. When you have to let go, when you have to move forward, when you have to not worry about looking back, right? You have to be able to find your center. What is your center? With all of these different things transpiring in my life, being followed, being stalked, people popping up at my exact location, how do they know where I'm at exactly? Why do they show up and do stupid things like the white car that I showed you that's parked right beside me? He ain't got out of his car yet to go in the gym. He's just running his car for the 40 minutes. I'll say 30 minutes because I had already started talking. For the 30 to 35 minutes that he been sitting here, his car been running the whole time. He ain't got out yet to go in the gym. This man literally came just to sit beside me. And people who have not experienced stuff like this will say, oh, you thinking about it too much. I'm telling you exactly what it is. I don't have to think about it. It is what it is. I've experienced gang stalking for years now. It is what it is. He came just to sit beside me to see if he would get a reaction out of me. Even me talking about him is probably making him feel better. That's how silly these leeches are. That's how silly they are. They just want to see if they can unnerve you if you're going to talk about them. That's why some people, I don't even try to talk about them too much. Because they just pop up because they want to see if they're going to get a reaction. You know, like that whack-a-mole, they be down in the little pits or the jail cells or wherever they be at. Then they pop up just to see if you going to jump to hit them. Yeah, I know somebody like that. I don't know them personally. I don't know them. I really don't ever want to know them, but I really don't even like them at all. But that's neither here nor there. They know I don't like them, okay? But they pop up like a whack-a-mole every so often just to see if they're going to get a rise out of me. It's kind of funny now when I realize it because they partially, but not probably in the way that they want. But you know, people who demented like that, they'll take anything. They'll literally take anything. Sit with it. They'll literally take anything. Anything. Anything they'll take. They don't care what it is, who it is, how it is, and they don't care. They'll take anything. They'll take anything. So, establishing a community of people who realize that the network is not set up in our favor. Right? Also, establishing a community or code of conduct where people realize that you're just a pawn. Right? Some of you are being used to do deviant things, and you don't even consider the extent that that could be your child, your family, your sister, your brother, your cousin. And then what would you do? What would you do? Victims don't speak up because they realize there's too many pawns who will jump to do what the majority is doing, and then they have to deal with the aftermath of that. I'm not saying everybody that's coming out with stories or different things, because some people will lie. There are some demented people. I have seen so many people put themselves in, and this is me being truthful. It's gonna sound whatever. You gotta own your feelings about what I'm about to say, okay? Especially if you're the one doing it, right? Because I know everybody isn't doing it, but I'm just telling you what I've seen. There are people who will curate a storyline to mirror the exact life of what they think somebody else is going through, just because they want the attention from people that they think that person is getting. I have seen multiple people curate storylines and make YouTube channels based off of my life. I'm not saying some people don't go through similar things. I'm saying that there are some people that are so sick and twisted in the head that they will make a YouTube channel, they will make whatever page that they talking about, right? Wherever their platform is, and they will use it to curate a storyline similar to the very storyline they see me living. I saw a streamer randomly want to become a fashion designer. Now, it was funny because I will randomly sew and put something together. Now, I'm not saying that streamer didn't, have a desire to have a clothing line. Who wouldn't want to own their own clothing line? That's kind of cool. But then what made it even odd was, well, every time you saw the streamer, they were full of joy and laughter and having fun and had all their friends there. But then they were like, oh, they had this random storyline of them being depressed. Then they had these journals, and I'm just like, that's not your story. But see, when you can see stuff like that, people will say, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. People will rally around the person. Why? Because the person was groomed to get you to do that. Not only were they groomed, they have groomed their audience. And so their audience will jump into defense, and they won't even pause and actually consider what the opposing person is saying because, well, they've already been groomed to believe whatever that person says. They've been groomed already. So then when you're the voice in the wilderness and you point it out, you're like, don't say I ain't tell you, but something's not right. There are people that are demented, and they're really demented. They really work for darkness, right? They will really line up for a train, a premeditated train at that. Let me not let me not forget that this is something that they're planning in advance. And they're speaking on it, actively speaking on it. You don't find that strange? You don't find it strange? And then they never had the courage to directly speak on it. They're always speaking stuff in code, right? I remember this lady. Don't know the lady, but she's clearly a fan of my life. She watches my life, right? She seems to be kind of watching it pretty deeply. But considering her profession, I can understand why, because she probably loves to analyze minds. But she's a nasty individual spiritually. She's spiritually nasty, just corrupt, okay? But you could tell that by the company she kept on the show that she went on, okay? People will do strange stuff. They just want a reaction. They don't want to admit that they're watching you, but they tell you that they're watching you. They want you to fear their network. And until we establish a community where we are the network, right? We're not just the ones that's tuning into the networks, but we establish a network that covers the pawns, that covers the little people. The bigger players will continue to do crazy stuff. People will continue to come up missing, and there will be no justice. Their network is clearly actively covering themselves. They have put things in place to cover themselves. When are we going to establish a network for the little guys? When are we going to get to a place where we can comfortably be a good, solid resource for one another? Love our neighbor like the word tells us to do. And we're living in crazy times, so I understand that. When we get through this hiccup or the interesting time, right? And sometimes we only get through it when we go through it. What do I mean? There were times in the word where God was experiencing persecution and slander and being mocked and all of these different things, right? And you know what he did? He walked right through the very same ones that had everything to say about him. He just walked straight through them. He just walked through the crowd. He just walked through the crowd. Some things you can only get through when you go through it. But you need no fear to be able to go through it. You need no fear to go through it. Perfect victims will continue to be made until there is a community established that says no, not this one, but us. And when I say that, I mean until we get to a space where we can stand up for us collectively. We've gotten to this space where we feel like, oh, we can't be in nothing. We're going to sit back and be still and be quiet. How you going to make change with no action? Ain't that what a lot of y'all be talking about sometimes? Oh, you got to put in the action. You got to do the work. You got to do this. You got to do that. But all the action that's talking about is just following the rules. Thank you for the hearts. How you doing? My condolences, Karen. You cannot change anything. I'm glad you're doing good, Aaron. You cannot change anything without action. Sometimes there's no justice because you're not willing to fight for it to be so. Elijah had to fight those prophets. He had to stand up against those prophets. Whether he was scared or not, he had to go face those prophets. He had 3.5 years, right? He gave the warning. He let them know it's going to be no rain. 3.5 years, Elijah was off doing something else, right? Ahab had to deal with the drought. He warned him, hey, it's going to be a drought. It ain't going to be no rain. And he was out the way for 3.5 years. He popped back up when the drought was over. And he was like, look, this is what it is. And then, boom, there was this battle, okay? Let me see your God call down fire. I'm going to show you my God call down fire. But the drought had to be so for those 3.5 years. And once the drought was over and the rain was back, he popped up and did work. Right? He popped up and did work. We have to establish community that is able to help us get through so nobody is made a victim. The sacrifices and the snatching of people keep taking place because there's a system, there's a network. And there's not a big enough or a strong enough or a loud enough network that says, no, this is not okay. There's not a loud enough, a strong enough, a collective enough group that says, you can't do this. We won't tolerate it. People do not understand that if you are okay with it happening to one, it sends a message to those in power that you're okay with it happening to all. And people don't see things like that because they're too busy looking at the attention or the energy that they can get from being in the collective versus going against it. I always talk about Micaiah. One, because I love that his name kind of rhymes with mine, Micaiah and Kashaya. But anyway, I talk about Micaiah all the time. Well, I don't talk about him all the time, but I reference him, okay? Because Micaiah was not with the collective of prophets, right? These prophets that was serving, who was over there? Jehoshaphat, and I want to say it was Ahab, but it wasn't Ahab. It was Nebuchadnezzar? Anyway, it was somebody with an N, okay? And Jehoshaphat. I know it was them two. And Jehoshaphat said, is there another prophet? It was 400 prophets that had a lion spirit placed on them. A lot of times people will listen to people and they don't even realize that they one of the prophets that God done put a lion spirit on. So you'll see this collective of prophets going against one prophet, and the whole time the one prophet is the one that God is speaking through. But because people see the collective of prophets who are saying, don't listen to this person, the people go with the majority versus the one. It's the same thing with victims. There has been such a system put in place that it'll be multiple people denying or lying and saying, no, this didn't happen to me. He didn't rape me. No, I can't speak on that. That didn't happen to me. But then strategically they'll come out and say, actually, yeah, he did rape me. He took my behind. I'm sorry, he did. And then it'll be one person that'll be like, well, why you ain't say nothing? Sometimes I'm the one. Why you ain't say nothing about that when everybody else was saying something about it? And if you listen to me and you think this contradicts, it only slightly contradicts because you don't understand that these wicked people are strategic. If you allow them to do something heinous, I don't know how to properly say the word right now, heinous to one, you are signaling that you're okay with them doing it to all. Because the all refuses to come together. It's similar in the Bible. When the man threw his wife out, right? That story still jacks me up, okay? It still jacks me up. I don't care. It still messes me up. That man gave up his wife. She was raped and everything else, right? He picked her body up after the night was over, right? Because they didn't want to give up the angels or somebody that was in the room with them. They didn't want to give up the male guests. So they sent the woman. They threw the woman outside. Disgusting, right? Anyway, we'll get into that on a different. I'll talk about that differently somewhere else, okay? They didn't want to give up the men, so they threw the woman out. Had their way with this woman. These men, I might even include women at this point, because I'll be darned, there are women who are with the sick, nasty stuff too. It's just disgusting. You nasty. Oh, you is nasty. Anyway, there are women, okay? But there was a group of men, and we're going to throw some women in there. I'm not changing the Bible. I'm just telling the story at this point. We're going to throw some women in there because I realize, blessings, how you doing? I'm doing good, Aaron. Thank you for asking. It is people, okay, that will collectively come together to do debauchery, nasty, filthiness, because, well, they do all this stuff anyways in the hills and the mountains and stuff. That's what the words say. I'm paraphrasing, right? The tribe, hear me, the tribe found out about it, right? Because the husband did some craziness and decided that the tribe should know about it. That story really bothers me. Even though the ending was like, okay, people came together, but the story bothers me. It still bothers me. It don't sit right with my spirit. It just don't, okay? The husband sent a message to his brothers, the other 10 tribes, right? Because it was one tribe that they all fought. But it took everybody to come together and send a message to that one tribe. Do you know everybody coming together? The other 11 tribes standing together against that one tribe? They almost took that tribe out. It took them a few times, right? Because that one by itself had some force and power behind it, right? But collectively, they were able to almost wipe out that one tribe. But they had grace and mercy on it, and they didn't completely wipe out the tribe. But the message behind it is, it's going to take us coming together to send a message that there is no perfect victim. If brotherhood, loving your neighbor, was actually fully implemented. Fear makes you the perfect victim. People say, "Oh, you gotta love your neighbor," and you do. Yeah, you love your neighbor. But sometimes loving your neighbor is correcting them. Sometimes loving your neighbor is telling them that they're wrong. God loves us and He corrects us, right? Why is it that we can't correct our neighbor? In love. Sometimes you got to give people stuff straight. Samson did. Samson was an emotional, calculated crash out. Samson was an emotional, calculated crash out. I'm just saying he was. I like Samson. Samson was an emotional, calculated crash out. You didn't play with that man's feelings or his lady, okay? But he also got suckered by Delilah. He got suckered by Delilah, okay? He held out for as long as he could, and then Delilah got him. But it took Delilah quite a few times before she was able to fully get him, right? I don't know why. Love will make you do love or lust. I don't know what Samson was dealing with when it came with Delilah. I don't know if it was lust or just love. But regardless, if it was a mix, that's even stronger delusion. But listen, we got to come together, okay? Victims are made victims because there's no community to stand behind them and say you shouldn't have done that, right? Do you know the message it would send to people who do decrepit stuff? I watched a video last night and it was of a father getting a slap on the wrist. This is an old video, right? An old judgment that was made in 2023 or something like that. But this father, and then they didn't even give the father's name, right? This father was doing the worst to his daughter. He got weekend jail time. This is not a DUI, right? This wasn't a DUI. This was some deeply sick stuff that this man was doing to his own daughter. And he got weekend jail sentence like he had a DUI or something. This is the system. I won't say the whole system. This is a part of the system, right? That was somebody's experience with the system. They got a slap on the wrist for the worst of the worst. I know someone who had a DUI and had to do weekend jail time. He didn't molest or do anything crazy to his sibling or sister or anything like that. He was drunk driving and got weekend jail time. How is it that people can do decrepit things, disgusting things, and get weekend jail time? If that little girl had a system behind her that would have checked her daddy, I bet you daddies will stop doing stupid stuff like that. If the little girl could have had a system of her brothers and sisters, adults in this point, right? Because maybe they did have siblings that stood up for them. That's a beautiful thing when you have siblings that take up for you. I used to have some siblings that would do that for me. We used to be really, really close. But life happens and people change for strange things. Money is wicked. Excuse me. The love of money is wicked. Money is a resource. I'm not saying money is wicked. So excuse me, Father. My hand is open to still receive it. Hallelujah. What I'm saying is the love of money is wicked. And we have seen that in society of how deeply wicked it is. People will get money, they'll get fame, they'll get power, and then all of a sudden now they cooking babies on pizza. Oh, now you love pizza, but the pizza is cannibal pizza. This is cannibal pizza. They are celebrating eating human pizza. And everybody's like, we're just going to go to work. Oh, yeah, we're going to keep sending our kids to school. We don't know if they got tunnels under the school or not where they can just snatch them when they want to and put them on a pizza. But we're just going to go to work. We got to send the babies. They got to go to school. And I understand this is a slippery slope. It has to be said. We're just gonna send them to school. People have come out and said there's tunnels under these schools. People have come out and said there's tunnels under some of these people's houses that are eating the baby piece up. Fear makes the perfect victim. And if we continue to raise our kids to follow trends, to be scared to speak up to power, what's up, Carrie? Then a lot of these things are going to keep taking place. It's good, cool. We're raising our standards when it comes to dating and relationships. Can we raise the cultural standard altogether? Can we raise the cultural standard altogether? Cool. We can talk about relationships. One moment, nobody wanted the men, right? Then the men was saying they don't want the women. All of this back and forth. Cool. Okay, whatever. Now we got the men, they going for peace. Men, I applaud y'all. Because, listen, I like peace myself. So, I applaud anybody that chooses peace. There are going to be issues in relationships, yeah. But stressing somebody out and then trying to say that's part of love, you're not going to stress me out because you love me. I'm sorry. You're not going to stress me out because you love me. So, if that's where men are today, I applaud you. Okay? Because you're not gonna stress me out because you love me. I don't care. Your love is tainted and twisted, and I don't want it. You're not gonna stress me out and then say you love me. Now, if it's like light stress, joyful, fun stress, like silly stuff like that, okay, that's different. But if you stressing me out because you don't want to do the work to heal or openly talk about plainly whatever the heck you got going on, and you don't want to deal with the deep rooted parts of you that you trying to keep hidden, or you want to live in the whatever it is, no, it's too much stuff going on in the world to always have drama and chaos in your household or with the one that you love. We need to raise the cultural standard. Why do we continue to overlook stuff that's just wrong? Why are we quiet, or why aren't we moved to take a stand against stuff that is wrong collectively? But everybody is scared of being broke for a little bit. And then they tell you if you're broke, you shouldn't look broke. And then when you don't look broke when you're broke, then they tell you you shouldn't be trying to look rich when you're broke. Do you see the stupidity that we be having conversations about sometimes? It's like there's this undying, never satisfied. People want you to jump through 50 different loops. We just need a core code of conduct that everybody can get on board with. If something crazy is happening to a child, to even an adult, we as a people should be able to say, no, that's wrong. Why don't we have the ability to govern ourselves? We feel like we have to be governed. And then those that we're being governed by are doing all the crazy things, and then they're not being punished for it. There's systems in place to say, no, you're not going to get in trouble for that. You're protected. But it's okay for them to have people out here posted up ready to snatch our kids. And there's no, where's the repercussions? But people are scared. That's what makes people the perfect victim, is fear. Fear of going against the crowd. Fear of standing up to power, even though you may look at yourself as just a pawn on the board. You may look at yourself as a little dog in this big old world. And you see all the big dogs as you may see them with the money and the cars and the so quote unquote power. But you're failing to realize it's power in numbers. You're failing to realize that that's just one tribe that's doing the craziness. And it's 11 other tribes that could come together to check the one. It's just one tribe that's doing the craziness. It's 11 other tribes that can come together and check the one. Maybe that one is strong, right? And they've already knocked out many people. But if you quit just because you get knocked down once or twice, you'll never secure the W. It's just like in fighting. You're going to take a couple L's before you secure that win. Every opponent is not going to be somebody that you're just going to be able to easily knock down. Sometimes you got to get knocked down so you can learn what to do and how to adjust on the next fight. You can't win them all. Some people is out here winning them all now. But you can't, everybody ain't going to always win them all. But the perfect victim is someone that's scared, that doesn't know how to move and strategy when dealing with and oh excuse me, that's two different things. The perfect victim is someone that's fearful, right? Someone that is scared. I'm not telling you you shouldn't have a certain element of fear or awareness of when to be moved, right? Sometimes you need to move. Even in the word, God told the disciples, if the people in this town or the city don't accept you, shake the dust from your feet and move. So I'm not saying there are not times and moments and places where you should not move. I'm just saying you should not be scared to move. Those disciples still had to go through and deal with all those crazy people. And back then they didn't have cars. They had to walk through all these towns and cities. But God, I don't want. They had to walk through all these towns and cities to do that on foot with a walking stick. We got cars nowadays. You can just get up and go. Just get up and go. Victims need community. And until we realize that if we're okay with it happening to one, we send the message that we're okay with it happening to all. Until we are able to come together and say, no, this is wrong. You can't do this anymore. You shouldn't have done this. The issue will remain. Nothing will never change. The culture won't rise because it's okay being pawns instead of figuring out what steps we can take to become bishops, rooks, knights, kings, queens. Until the pawns realize that you have to journey across the board collectively to get some power, you'll stay a pawn. And the bishops, the rooks, the knights will continue to knock you off the board. They will continue to snatch your kids. They will continue to snatch your wives. They will continue to abuse the very talent some of y'all love. They will continue to think that power means you get to disrespect and abuse and mistreat. If everybody is scared to take a stand and to come together and realize that we have to come together. If you're scared to go up against the enemy, how are you going to mess up the enemy's plans? How are you going to disrupt the plans of the enemies if you're scared to face them? I'm just asking. I want to know, how can you disrupt the plans if you're scared to go up against them? That man wife was messed up, died, died on the steps of the very door she was supposed to be resting in. And the tribes came together to take a stand to say that was wrong. Fan club. Listen, it's gonna be on us to help us. We keep looking for, and I'm not saying God doesn't have rams in the bush. He does. I know he does. Sometimes the person that you at least expect to help you will be the main one that'll help you. And God bless all those people that's just set up in that way to be obedient and move like that, right? Because I genuinely don't think all people in certain places are bad. There's evidence, even in the word, that that's not the case, right? For Jehu to be successful, he had to have those people that was on Jezebel's side originally, right? But because those people worked in Jezebel's camp, they were able to throw Jezebel over the wall. Threw her right on out of her own palace. But they had to have access or proximity to Jezebel to even be able to be a helping hand like that. Some people, even though they are in opposing sides, right, are still on the Lord's side. And so when I talk about certain things, I'm not automatically believing that every single person is, right? Some people mentally, I can understand why they would believe that. But when I speak, I don't immediately always feel like every single person on the opposing side is all bad, all negative. Some people ain't have no choice. Some people were forced to do crazy things. Do I believe that because they were forced to participate, that means that they are equally wicked? Not all people. It really depends on how they respond to what the freak happened to them. And you got to be careful, because now some people who are definitely on the opposing side will listen to me, and then they will switch up their stories to align themselves with what I'm saying to appear like they are good when they are really inflated bad. That's just what it is. Some people will align themselves to be the very people or the very way. They will portray the very character traits, and deep down they are still rotten. I've seen it in prophets, in everybody. I've seen it. They will take the wisdom, apply it as a mask, and still be rotten. I've seen it in all different atmospheres. I've seen it. It's live and active. I've seen it. There are people who are doing it actively right now. There's one in particular, two in particular, off the top of my head. But there are multiple people. Victims are victims because there's not enough people willing to stand up and say this is not right. There's not enough community set up and established to check their neighbors. And I know the world is crazy, so it's not always easy to see something going wrong and then to speak up about it. I completely understand that. I really do. Because everything everything sometimes isn't your business. But I also sometimes think about that the story in the Bible where there was it was a guy, homeless guy or something, and there was multiple people that passed by this man in the Bible, and the only person that stopped to help the man and to love on his neighbor was the Samaritan man. I think it was a Samaritan man. He was the only one to stop and help. And God said, "Which one do you think was?" I don't know if he said which one do you think loves your neighbor or something like that. I think that was the parable, the example going on. It was talking about how to love your neighbor or something like that, right? I think about that story. In my situation, being gang stalked, being tracked, being watched, there are so many people that pop up around me, like just doing stupid stuff. Earlier, this guy, as I was talking, popped up, parked, and then started messing with his tire. I've been pumping up my tire every day for I don't know how long now. So that's what I mean when I say like certain stuff you gotta ignore or you just have to be aware of. You have to know your center, know who you are, know what's going on in your life to be able to respond to stuff accordingly. I could have got out and helped that guy. But some people pop up and do stupid stuff that they see me do because it's part of the gang stalking program. I don't know who trained these individuals. At this point, they need me on board to help them redo whatever system they got set up. I don't know who trained the individuals, right? But some people literally pop up just to do stuff around me because their gang stalking program told them this is what you need to do. Know your center. Know your situation. But there gonna be times that the only time you can correct something is collectively. Collectively. There might be one group right now that you feel like has all the power or that's out here doing all of the decrepit and the deranged stuff. There might be one tribe that's running rancid. But loving your neighbor is sometimes correcting your neighbor. How many times are they going to keep doing the same things over and over and over and over again? Snatching kids, doing these decrepit, nasty things. How many times are everybody just going to keep, nope, I'm just going to go to work and mind my business and do this and do that? You know, sometimes the only way to protect your family is to actually, you got to really fight for them. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes the only way is to actually fight. You know that, right? People say, oh, God's going to fight your battles. God fights our battles with us. God fights our battles with us. David literally fought with God. Hear me. David fought and God was with him. So David had to squabble up literally. But God was with him when he fought. Do you get what I'm saying? Samson was birthed for chaos. Calculated chaos. Samson was birthed for that sole purpose. He was designated as God's from birth. He was created for calculated chaos. And every time he fought, he won because God was with him. Do you get where I'm going with this? Do I need another example? Do I need another example? The angels that was sent to Lot to examine Sodom and Gomorrah. They whooped all those people because they were gods. Not they were gods, but because they belonged to God and they were his angels, they were his witnesses of what was going on in the world, they wiped out Sodom. Does it make sense? I'm not telling you not to be still. Sometimes being still is hard. What I'm telling you is that sometimes your brothers and sisters who you love, they won't get the message unless you correct them. It's in the Bible. The tribe of Benjamin, I believe, who did that to that man's wife, they were almost wiped out. Now they whooped those people, 11 tribes. They took out a good number of the 11 tribes. Now let's be clear. Just because it was one tribe, they took out a good amount of those people. But they won eventually because of God. But you can't be scared to fight. You can't be scared to lose. You can't be scared to have a couple of pawn pieces missing. That's all I'm saying. The perfect victim is made because of fear. So if you don't fear your enemy, you're less likely to be a victim. But just because you don't fear them and you have stuff going on in your life, it also does not mean that you are not being victimized. And I think people need to get that through their head. Just because you refuse to carry yourself as a victim does not mean you are not being victimized. Every day I am followed, I am stalked, I am watched. My life is fully accessible to complete strangers. Every day. And just because I refuse to carry myself as a victim does not mean I am not being actively victimized. You're not the perfect victim because you don't have fear. That's bullcrap. Especially when you're being actively victimized. My bank account stuff is being messed up. People have access to that information that they shouldn't even have. It doesn't mean I'm not a victim. But they want you to have fear to be the perfect victim. Just something that was on my mind this morning. I didn't see it going to an hour and a half, but there's some meat in here, so I hope you take something from it. Fear makes you the perfect victim. Fear makes you the perfect victim. Community corrects abusers. If you take nothing else from this and you skip all the way to the end, fear makes you the perfect victim, and community corrects abusers. Fear makes you the perfect victim. Community corrects abusers. Love y'all later. Have a great day. I'll catch y'all next time, whenever that may be. Deuces.